The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised.
Bumblefoot. Bumblefoot.
Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys. They let us think that we're big boys. They let us make the louder noise, but women rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. For you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghosts. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on!
Game on!
Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hiya! Toby! Bye-bye! Love you! Bye-bye!
Tickets, please take your seat above us. We're at the entrance. Prepare for takeoff. Start. 2, 1. Boost to ignition and lift off.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, and it's great to have you along for the ride on this Thursday, August 17th. Friday, August 18th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. Hope you had a great day and night. We are live right here in the Great White North on top of the Smoky Mountains of central British Columbia. as we are here 7 days a week. We welcome everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember, the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. If you like our music, get your horns up for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Hey, if you're a social media junkie like I am, follow me on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. On Instagram, follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TuneIn, iTunes, TalkStream Live, and our website is spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you got to do me a favor. You got to sign into one of the chat rooms so we can talk. You go into the Revolution Radio chat room, Spreaker, UPRN chat room, or join us on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I will get to your questions and comments in there as well. Now, if you head to our website for $5 a month, you can become a member of the SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, pick up a t-shirt, poster, stickers. You can also hang out at the counter online, read some cool stories by Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer. Check out my latest blog there as well. And if you've had an experience you can't explain, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. You can also catch some cool videos by UFOseekers.com's Tim Doyle and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. Edie Caito has been on this show a couple of times before, as she, in my opinion, is taking Sasquatch research to almost a whole different level that most people haven't even considered. She's doing it efficiently and quietly, all while building a solid reputation because of the evidence she is uncovering. Edie fully admits she's not a scientist or someone who heads into the field of research with preconceived notions of what exactly it is she's looking for. Instead, she's taking what I like to think is a real human approach to her investigation. And the tales she has to share with all of us, all because of a gifting site she has set up for the cryptids of the Indiana forest she researches. The evidence is as strong as any that she has studied anywhere else in North America. Handprints, teeth marks, footprints, all because she has shown trust and kindness to the elusive creature we call Sasquatch. And now, the contact is getting closer. How close will it eventually get? Who knows? That's to be determined. But the evidence Edie has collected has even stunned some of the best and brightest minds in the field of Bigfoot research. Edie Caito, my friend, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, Dave. How are you?
Good. It's always good to get you back on the show, and we really do appreciate it. You know, normally on the third Thursday of the month, we have Jamie Sexton in from Rebel Planet News. However, he is not feeling that well this week, so we had to give him the night off, and I contacted you because we hadn't talked Sasquatch in a while, and boom, here you are. So it made my night.
Me too. I always enjoy coming on the show and talking with you.
Well, we appreciate it on this end as well, my friend. And, you know, last year when we talked, and hard to believe it's already been like 10 months ago that you were last on this show, but you were starting to get some incredible findings from your gifting site. We're going to get into the gifting sites and the questions from the audience a little bit later on in the show. But for those of us who are new to the show, because our audience is always changing and always growing, I would love for you to tell your story about how you got into Sasquatch research, because up until a couple of years ago, you didn't even believe that this creature existed.
Yeah, that's true. It actually started in 2013. We had a pretty amazing paranormal experience in a state forest about 35 miles south of where we live. And from that time on, we were kind of spending time out there researching because I'm writing a book on what happened. And one night we just and let me explain first that just like Dave said, my husband and I, my whole family, none of us were believers in Bigfoot. We used to make fun of Bigfoot believers. And I mean, we thought it was completely, out of the realm of ridiculous. And one night we were out there driving around. It's probably about 11:30 or so at night. And we had gone down a gravel road we'd not been down before. And we went around this little S curve. And as soon as we come around the curve, Bigfoot ran right in front of our car, maybe 20 feet in front of us. We had the brights on because we were on a really dark road. So it was like an enormous spotlight. And this creature had to have been 7-8 feet tall, a good 650 pounds. It was massive, just massive. And I'll never forget the look on my husband's face. He just completely went pale. And so it was, I guess, from that moment on that we really kind of had no choice but to believe that they existed.
No, absolutely. And sometimes it takes that life-altering experience to actually believe what is going on. So take us back. You say you'll never forget your husband's face. What was the reaction of you and your hubby when you hit the brakes seeing this creature run across in front of you?
Okay, well, first of all, I was completely distracted because with the brights on, if any of you know, when you're out in the forest, especially in the summertime, you have every creature, every little moth or anything will gravitate toward those lights. And I was watching a bat swoop down. And so my attention was kind of over and up. And all of a sudden, that's when my husband hit the brakes. And I'm looking at him, and he looked like he was literally going to vomit. And I'm like, "Are you okay?" He goes, did you just see that?" And of course, I said, "Yeah, I saw the bat." He goes, "I'm not talking about the bat." And he started to describe what he saw, and he said, "I don't know what the hell that was." And so, it was from that minute on that, I kept trying to go through, was it a deer? And he goes, "It was too big to be a deer." I said, "Well, bucks get pretty big around here." And no, it wasn't. He said, it's legs and its arms, and it was running different. He said it was hairy. And I said, "No." And I jokingly thought he was joking, but he was literally white as a sheet. And it took him 2 weeks before he could grasp the fact that he actually saw a Bigfoot. I was going online and finding pictures of different animals. Could it have been this? And really the largest creatures we have out here in the forest besides the Bigfoots are the white-tailed deer. We don't have bears. We have some wild cats, but of course they don't get bigger than our car. And so I just started showing pictures, and I had found a picture that was kind of a black and white. It was taken obviously from somebody's trail cam, and it looked pretty convincing. I showed him that picture, and he goes, "Yeah, it looked like that. What is that?" I said, "Honey, that's a Bigfoot." And he was just like, no. But it did. It took a couple of weeks before he contacted someone with the Indiana Bigfoot Research Organization out here. And we met with Leroy and Nancy Nail, who actually run it now, and started talking to them, and had found out that there was another report less than 2 miles from there, just a couple of weeks prior to that. And they kind of took us under their wing and explained to us, different things about the forest that we had completely overlooked, tree structures and tree breaks and all of these things. And they really kind of gave us a crash course. And from that moment on, he and I were obsessed with trying to have another experience, trying to hear something. And it just kind of took off from there. And I kind of branched off myself because I wasn't the, going out into the woods, into their territory, screaming and doing all those things. We did a little bit of that at first, but it really wasn't my thing. because I felt like I was being intrusive. So I started my own way of researching, and between what my husband does and what I do, and we kind of put it together, and it works.
How did you gain your own style? Because there's a lot of people out there, Edie, who when they are investigating, they already have a preconceived notion of what they think Sasquatch is. But knowing you, I'm confident to say this, you didn't know and you wanted to find out on your own method. Why did you choose to go that route?
Well, because, of course, before that had happened, I had watched, Finding Bigfoot, of course, and laughed about it, because really they had never come up with anything concrete that I could tell. And so I had seen that, but after we had our experience, I went online and started doing a little bit of poking around and watching different videos and whatnot, and I found someone who actually does this type of gifting, and I was extremely fascinated by her videos. And so I messaged her and talked to her a little bit, and she said, this is, how I believe, this is the way I do it. And I liked what she did. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go out. I wanted to see if I could gain the trust of, at that time, I thought they were creatures. I call them more beings now, because I've learned so much over the past few years that they are so intelligent, and they're playful, and they're funny, and they're ridiculous, and they're scary, and all of these things balled up into one. And I would not have it any other way, because even if we do go out and my husband does tree knocks, or he does a call, or I do a call, I think we have enough trust built within us and the clan that they know we're not out there tricking them, that we're out there actually calling to them and saying, hey, we're here. If you want to come by, hang out, say hi, whatever. And it works. And I'm very grateful to, her name was Barbara Shoup, for kind of guiding me in that direction. And then I took it and ran with it. And I do a lot of things different than she does, but it's still in essence kind of the same thing.
Here in British Columbia, I learned of an elderly couple through a friend that has had a gifting site for well over 15 years in the Wells Gray National Park here in British Columbia.
Nice.
And they go visit their Sasquatch 1 week every year. And that Sasquatch has figured out the timing. And we're going to get more into the whole gifting aspect with everything. But let's learn about the creature. Before you started your gifting site, what was your, lack of a better term, preconceived notion of what you were dealing with?
I didn't know at that point. I really didn't. From, doing a little bit of research online and from, a couple of television shows I had watched and things like that, I really didn't go in thinking that they were anything more than maybe an unevolved human, maybe. I wasn't sure. I heard a lot of people say they were alien related, they were interdimensional, and all these other things. So I just kind of went in with an open mind. That kind of puts me back to the paranormal research, because you do have to have an open mind, because if you go in with a closed mind, you're only going to see what you want to see. You're only going to see so far. So I listen to everybody and everybody's opinions and everybody's findings, and I say, okay, cool. If that happens to me, then I'm on it. But until that happens to me, I'm just going to leave it open to what I have experienced myself. And doing it that way has really brought a lot of crazy things to light.
Well, you have to define crazy as we start to get in here, because you are someone, you and I, and we'll get into this as well, you and I actually had a weird experience, because I was giving you some information about a year and a half ago that actually came true.
Yes.
And we'll get into that. But I'm curious right now to learn a little bit more about your whole Bigfoot genre, because you said you weren't sure until you wanted to form your own opinion of what you were dealing with. So what have you learned since you started that you didn't believe would actually be of this creature?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize they would be so intelligent. I was thinking animal, and that just irks me when I watch Finding Bigfoot and I hear them refer to them as animals, because although they live in the forest and they eat, what other animals eat and things like that, they're, far beyond animalistic, in my opinion. The thing I think that surprised me the most is the playfulness. Because like I said, when I started leaving toys and balls and things like that at the gifting site, they would literally take these balls and they'd disappear, and then they'd bring them back and they'd be completely flat. And so I knew they were taking them out and they were playing with them. They were having fun with them. And, that was the first thing that really got me. And, again, hearing people talk about different things, I'd heard a lot of people talk about mind speak and the way they communicate through telepathy, which, of course, in the beginning, I was like, oh, cool. If that happens to us, it happens. And sure enough, it did end up happening. And like I said, I'm always open to things. I'm not going to sit here and go, you're crazy. I'm more or less kind of, we'll see. And it actually happened. So I think the telepathy thing and the fact that they were just so human-like in the way they're playful, and just like the time that they come up and literally scared the pee out of my husband while he was out there by himself. And it was like a game to them just to sneak up on him and scare him. And it's amazing. It seems like I learn more and more about them as, the months and the years go by.
I'm a firm believer that this creature is not a violent creature. I'm sure there are packs that are, but I take it as it being a very docile type of creature. My experience when I saw the two, I didn't feel afraid of them. I just wanted to take it all in and watch them. I knew it wasn't a good idea to follow them, but I just wanted to take it all in, because I'm a firm believer that Sasquatch is a very spiritual creature, or whatever it may be, and I believe that you don't see Sasquatch, he allows you to see him, for the most part.
Yes, I do believe that. Though our very first, when it ran in front of the car, I think that was kind of an accident, because we had come around an S-curve and he was pursuing something, because he was in the hands and almost like in a all fours position, but his arms were longer, so he was kind of at an angle. So that way we could see, like, from his waist all the way to his head was up above the car. It was so large. And this thing was moving. It was really trucking. So I think that was an accident. But we have found before that, or after that, should I say, I've seen outlines and shadows and whatnot. My daughter and I walked up on an elder one day, and I very, very recently saw one again myself with my husband, and this time I actually got to see one with my own eyes.
It is quite an amazing feat when you see that. It's different. It's a different emotional reaction. You're almost out of breath and trying to take it all in. Explain the emotions that you had when you finally saw the one that you did for the first time.
Okay, and this was just this past May. Again, I have seen shadows where they have moved through in the darkness, and there's no mistaking when you see something that enormous moving through the forest. There's really not a whole lot more it could be. But this particular day, it was in May. It was the very end of the IBRO spring camp out. And we packed up late and we're leaving the park. And we had come around, we'd passed Yellowwood Lake, went around the corner, and I had stopped and taken some pictures of some pretty amazing structures throughout there that were just not like tree branches. These were entire trees that had been broken down and stacked and moved and twisted. And so got back in the car. We went around the corner and we're heading up the main road. And all of a sudden my husband slammed on the brakes and he's like, "Oh my God." I said, "What did you see?" And he started to back up and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, stop." Because I was looking the same direction, and as he was backing up, I saw it. And I know 100% this was a female because she was a lot more narrow. She didn't have the big, thick neck or anything. She actually had a neck and the shoulders, and it was just the way she was shaped. She was standing... she was facing the road when my husband first saw her. And as we backed up, she had started to turn, and I saw her looking over her shoulder as she was turning to go back into the forest. And, of course, we went ahead and pulled over the car, and by the time we got out of the car and over to the side of the woods, she just poof, she was gone. But we went over and did an estimate on the height. She looked to be, it was probably about 7 foot tall. That her hair was a lighter shade of brown. And it's funny because the days leading up to this particular campout, we had so much rain that we almost got flooded in when we came in to set up the first night. It was so bad. So it had been raining. And so when I saw her, it almost looked like she had just walked out of a salon. Her hair was just long, and it was flowy and shiny. It was like she was almost standing like in a ray of sunshine. It was crazy. It was almost, I don't know. I can't even explain how it feels to see one of these beings, and she's looking over her shoulder at us like, okay, I saw you, you saw me, I'm out of here. And she stepped over a log and had disappeared back into the forest, which is that particular forest area, Yellowwood, is really, really thick. It's not one of those state forests where you have a whole lot of trails or anything like that. It was really thick. So it was really easy for her to just kind of get lost back there. But I was just blown away and completely just mesmerized by the fact that I got to see a female for the first time, and a female being the first time seeing one in the daylight was kind of awesome. And my husband was pretty blown away too, because this is his second experience seeing one.
I would like you to explain to people that when you have a sighting of something like Bigfoot, we get a lot of people on here, and I'll explain it this way, Edie. We get a lot of people who will say, well, you had a camera on your iPhone. Why didn't you take a video? Or why didn't you take a picture? I would have. They don't understand. They don't
understand. Your heart is racing because you're seeing something that your brain can't compute. Because it's the first time you're seeing this, and you're standing there and you're looking at this creature that has very human-like features, but yet hair covering its entire body. In the case of this female, she was at least 7 foot tall. And you see something that large in the forest that everybody, likes to say that they're not real. And you can get all of the footprints and the handprints and the teeth prints and the hair and everything, and they're there. But to see one with your own eyes, it's insane. And the last thing you're thinking is, oh gosh, grab my phone. And even though I had my phone in my hand, when we were walking, across the street, the last thing I thought of was grabbing it and turning the camera on. But I did actually hit video and started recording as soon as I got over. But by that time, she was already gone. Because once they see you, they tend to move pretty quickly, especially if you have a phone or something in your hand. I think they know.
I agree with you. I do believe they know as well. And, you know, I think that, and I fully agree with exactly with what you're saying, because I've said it on this show before. You don't know how you're going to react. You don't know how you're going to emotionally or mentally take a sighting of when you see something that you were told does not exist, or in your own brain you cannot comprehend how it exists or not. And you know, I think a lot of people who are skeptical about these types of sightings, just because it hasn't happened to you, doesn't mean it's going to happen. But if it does, then you will fully understand what we are trying to comprehend here as to the emotion that goes through seeing something like this. So when you had that, how long was your sighting for?
Oh, I don't know. It seemed like, I don't know. It was almost like time stood still for just maybe the several seconds that we saw her. Of course, my husband saw her facing the road, and I saw her from the side, so he got a little bit of longer of a look, but it was just so crazy because he didn't even say what he saw. He just started backing up, and I looked over, and I screamed at him to stop. I said, "There it is." And by the time we got out of the car and everything and got over, she was gone, and he said, "What did you see?" And I described what I saw, and he goes, "I wasn't going to say anything because I wanted to make sure we saw the same thing." He said, and we did.
My encounter lasted on the first one, about 5 minutes, because we were playing this peering game. He was behind a tree, peering in and out, and my friend and I were watching him for about 5 minutes before we decided to leave him alone because, you know, we just didn't want to agitate the creature. But the second one that was closer, it was literally 2 seconds, 3 seconds long. But I do remember from that, because those seconds, when it happens, they are long seconds. As we're describing to people, you know, and here's the other skeptical argument on that. Well, how can you remember everything if it happened in just a couple of seconds? Because your brain can slow down time when you're watching something that is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely, because, I mean, I can still picture her. Every time I think about it, I can picture her standing there, and it was so funny because Vince and I both described the fact that she looked so shiny and like she had just come out of a salon, and it was probably because all of the rain we had gotten. And it's just so difficult to try to describe to someone who's never had that experience.
Absolutely. And the one thing I will say is that's very familiar is the hair. When we had, I mean, the one that was, the second one that I saw was about 85 feet away from me. And it had that reddish brown hair, and it did not look matted. It did not look like it was in dreadlocks or anything like that. It looked smooth and silky, just like you pointed out. It looked very, very clean. It looked like it was waving as the creature moved, you know, like hair flows, you know, and for people who understand how much we like good hair around here, that should make sense.
Yeah.
So when you're having that sighting and you're having that experience, even though it lasts only a couple of seconds, I bet, Edie, you can remember every minute detail of what went on.
Oh, I can, exactly. I mean, I know the exact spot in the road where it was. It was just, and like I said, it was such a beautiful day because we had just over a week or more of rain, and everything was flooded. But it had finally, the last day or two of the the camp out, that the very last day as we were packing up to leave, I mean, it was beautiful and it was sunny and everything. And it was just the way the sun was coming down through the trees. And she was standing right under a beam of light that was coming down through the trees. And it just reflected off of her hair. And it was just crazy. I mean, we joke around that it was almost like a shampoo commercial, because then she turned and, her hair kind of moved, her body was in that direction, but she was looking over her shoulder. The rest of her turned and she just stepped over a log and back she went.
Did you feel any danger?
No.
When you were around her? No.
No. It was a pleasant feeling, almost like she was saying, I don't know, welcome, or because it was actually our first time staying in Yellowwood, and we had some pretty crazy experiences over the weekend, him and I alone and with a group, and it was almost like she knew who we were, or we knew who she was. It was the strangest feeling, but in no way did I ever feel in danger at all. And I never really have around them.
Do you believe in the concept, because you mentioned it earlier, about Sasquatch being telepathic? There's a lot of people who believe that is true. Why do you believe that?
I believe that because we have had a couple of experiences where the first time it happened, because I'd heard people talk about it and everything, and we had met a family through the IBRO who live, let me just say, here in central Indiana, and have lived on the same property for 18 years, and finally had come to us after their children had happened upon a male back in the woods while the kids were out picking berries. And these children have claimed that the Bigfoots that live behind their house have spoken to them in their dreams. And I've sat and listened to this family and listened to these teenagers talk and listened to their stories over the past 18 years, how they've had so many unexplained things happen and they never tied it into Bigfoot. Even the kids, when they were very little, would come and tell them about the Bigfoot they saw sticking out of the grass. And their dad never thought anything of it. And that's what first kind of got my mind open to it, because, why would these kids lie? They really didn't have any reason to lie about it. And actually they were a little kind of apprehensive about telling too many people. And so it was, probably a month or two after we had met this family, we were at the gifting site. It was myself and my daughter, and Vince, my husband, had gone. And this is when I had been doing it for probably over a year or more. And at this time, it just seemed like they were trying to tell me that they wanted me to move things, because they kept leaving objects, a trail for me to follow. And so my husband was following the trail of things that they had left for me, and the trash or whatever from the gifting site. And my daughter and I were sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard her say, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "They heard me." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And I look up, and here comes my husband carrying the most beautiful deer antler. And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "When we were here last weekend restocking," she said, "I was sitting here thinking how cool it would be if they left Mom a deer antler." And I looked at her and I said, "No, you didn't." And she goes, "Mom, I'm dead serious." I said, "No, you know how seriously I take this research. Are you kidding me?" She goes, "Mom, I swear to God, I sat here and I thought, how cool would it be if they left you a deer antler, and look what Dad has." And sure enough, he had followed the path, and right here in an open area in the very center, kind of surrounded by the things they had carried from the site, was this deer antler. And that was the first time I thought, wow, okay, so it wasn't them telling me anything. It was my daughter being heard. And so after we had moved the gifting site, I was getting a little frustrated because some of the things I was leaving were getting torn to shreds. Little bitty bite marks, torn to shreds. And I was thinking, okay, the raccoons are getting to this, or something is not right. So I decided in my mind that I would try to tell them that, okay, I don't mean to mistrust you, but I'm concerned. I want to make sure that it is you. And so I'm not meaning to be doubtful, but I just need you to somehow let me know that it is you. So I'm thinking this in my head the whole time, thinking this is my experiment and we'll see, but I doubt anything will happen. The following week, we went back to restock, and the same type thing was torn to shreds in the same exact area. And then the very center was a non-chemical glow stick. And I used only the non-chemical, the little battery-operated ones. And I went to pick it up thinking that it was one that had been taken from the site just a couple of weeks ago. So I picked it up and I looked at it, and I went to turn it around to look for the whistle, because the ones I use now have a whistle on the end. And I realized, oh my God, this is the exact one that was taken from the old gifting site almost a year ago. And it had shown up right on top of all of these torn up, ripped up things that I was concerned were coming from other animals. But here was this glow stick, this glow light. It was rusty on the end and everything. And it was there the week before. It hadn't been there for the several months that we had been gifting in that area. They had to have heard me. And from that moment on, I believed that they can communicate that way. And one day we were at the grocery store with my daughter, and I was just walking through, and I looked at her and I go, peanut butter. She goes, what? And I said, I think they want peanut butter. And she goes, well, I know we got peanut butter at home. I said, no. I said, I think it's the Bigfoots want peanut butter. I haven't left peanut butter in a while. I think I need to get peanut butter. I call it crazy, but I got peanut butter, took it there. Usually they'll leave it for a month and not take it. This time they took it the next day. It was gone.
That is amazing. And, you know, when you do your own experimentation on everything like that, and it's able to be provable, at least to your side of things, a lot of people out there on the outside may be saying something along the lines of, well, I don't really buy that. I'm not sure if that is truly what is going on. You know, there's a lot of, it's easy to be skeptical is what I'm saying in regards to that. And I know you personally, so I can sit here and say, okay, Edie is not someone who would truly believe this if it wasn't truly happening. But for people who don't know you, I mean, we you know, you have to sell yourself on that. What have other researchers told you when you've told them about this telepathic type communication?
Generally, I've never really talked to other quote-unquote researchers. I know the few that I do communicate with on a regular basis have no problem whatsoever believing that. The only reason I put myself out there, the only reason why I wrote the books is because it was something that I felt from my heart. It was something I wanted to do. And I in my books, I'm not sitting there pounding into your head, this is, you know, the truth. You know, you've got to believe it. I just share my stories. And I don't have, I tried to start a YouTube page and put up a couple of videos, and I'm like, this just isn't my thing, because I'm not out for my 15 minutes of fame. This is just something I'm really enjoying doing. And so when I do these little experiments on my own, they're for my benefit, and they just help me, I guess, further my trust with them, because I know they know my intentions. And when I went in and I found that, they were like, she's happy. She knows that it's us. And so when I told my husband, he believed me, just because I was able to show him that light that we hadn't seen in a year. And just having that little piece of evidence, yes, it's just a story that I'm telling, but I do have at least one piece of physical evidence, and it's kind of hard to, deny that when it's way out in the middle of the woods, and it's something we haven't seen for a year, and it's got IBRO written on it. That's kind of been faded, obviously, because it's been carried around or taken back to wherever it is they stay. So, I always tell people, you're welcome to believe me, because I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to tell you my experiences and my stories, and, hopefully maybe it'll make you think twice.
Let's learn a little bit about what a gifting site is.
Okay. Basically, what it is I take items out to the forest. I put them in sealed containers, which I have changed my containers now, because I asked the Sasquatch's permission to put up a trail cam. And when I did, I saw that as my containers wear, that the raccoons can get into them once they get kind of broken in. So I have changed what I use to put my things in, and the little buggers have not been able to get in there yet. And but back to what I do, I put everything in a container, and generally it is I take fruits, I take vegetables. There's a few things that I have learned that they like over the past few years, like they do like peanut butter, but like not every single time. They'll leave it there for a month, 2 months before they take it. Animal crackers, because they're not really high in sugar, but it's something that they really enjoy. Fruit pies, fresh baked fruit pies, the small ones. I found out probably over the last year or so that they like milk. I leave shelf-stable milk that is non-GMO and all that good stuff. I don't leave junk food. Only like on holidays, I'll leave maybe a handful of Hershey Kisses or something like that. I have a mirror and a hairbrush out there. I leave shiny stones, rocks, sparkly like stones and things like that, which they always take. They take those, or they rearrange things. I leave toys because I know there are at least 2 youngsters out there, so I leave balls and things that light up and things that make noise. I experiment, and I've found out, the things that they like, things they don't like. They do not like citrus. They do not like certain tropical fruits, and the name just eludes me right now. Mangoes. Yes, it was a mango I found completely smashed up against a tree. So they do not like mangoes.
I can't blame them for that. I can't blame them for that.
It's been fun, but that's how I do it. I leave those things, and over the past few years, I've had things left for me in return. The most recent is I'd say about a 5-foot long, what looks like a wizard staff. It's petrified wood. It has like a little bend at the top, and it looks like a very large, like a wizard staff, or something like a walking stick, but it's almost as big as me. And it was funny that they had left it when they did, because my husband and I had encountered 2 timber rattlers for the first time, and they were near the gifting site. They were quite large snakes, and my husband completely freaked to the point where he would not go back into the forest. And So every time we would go back there, he would carry a really big stick. And I thought it was funny that the following week, the staff was left right there in my gifting site. And it's so old and so petrified, it just didn't fall out of a tree. And it was laying across the area where I leave the rocks and the stones for them. It was just laying there like, here, maybe he can use this instead. And I thought that was pretty cool. So in the years that I've been doing it and leaving them things, they've left me several things, and I've just kind of learned more and more about them by their likes and their dislikes, food-wise, and what they like to play with and look at and things like that.
Have you noticed anything besides the mangoes that they don't like? Especially, like, you've left human objects too, like a mirror, or you've left balls. Is there things that they just haven't enjoyed or haven't touched?
Not really. Not really. It seems that the hairbrush they've never touched. If they have, they've moved it and put it back, but I've never found hair or anything. The mirror, we get smudges on it all the time. Never have gotten a full fingerprint or a handprint or anything like that, but they've left it. Sometimes if we leave things for them, they'll take them down, move them, and play with them, or they'll just leave them there and not touch them. Like they almost just like the way it looks. I've left toys that have literally been chewed on. Anything that I've left that has had like a UPC sticker on it, they will literally take and pick those stickers off. They pull the stickers off the bananas. They don't like stickers or tags. They'll pull tags off of things and leave them lay and take the toy or the stuffed animal away, but they'll pull the tag off and leave it. It's just, they've just got these funny little quirks that I find amusing.
Let's get to a couple questions here, because we only got about 3.5 minutes before we got to go to our first break of the night. Okay. And this one comes from #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter from Canadian Joe. And he is saying, Edie, do you think it's a good idea to leave gifts for Bigfoot? He has read where people stopped and Bigfoot became violent or destructive.
I have learned that from experience, particularly from the family I was telling you about who has Bigfoots that live right behind their homes. They started gifting in their yard, and if they wouldn't put things out enough, they started to come into their garage and get it themselves. And I've noticed that this is more of a trend if you live close by. I don't. And I honestly, with the rapport that I've built with them, I don't feel like they would get angry with me, because there have been times where I've not been able to get out there. I had cancer surgery last summer on my leg and was not able to get out there for probably about a month. But once we were able to get back out there, I verbally gave them an apology, and my husband went out and restocked. So, no, I don't think I've heard those stories before, but generally most of the stories that I've heard happen very, very close to somebody's property. Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, my mute button wouldn't work there for a second.
Okay.
Robin, we'll quickly ask this. We got about 2 minutes. Robin is asking, it's kind of off topic, but still along the same lines. Do you believe that Sasquatch and the Yeti are related in any way?
I do. I think it's like us humans. We come in different sizes, shapes, and colors, and we all come from different backgrounds, different countries, different heritages. I believe that they're related in that way.
Do you believe there are a lot of different species of Sasquatch in North America, or do you think we're dealing with the same creature? much like, I guess what I'm saying, there's different types of dogs, there's different types of cats. Do you think it's that way with Sasquatch?
I do, kind of, but kind of not. I mean, a dog is a dog is a dog, but, you know, you're going breed specific and things like that. And a Sasquatch is a Sasquatch, but yet I think their sizes and their shapes and their colors are going to vary. So I don't think it's more of like a breed when it comes to dog. I think it's more like humans. We're all humans, you know, take off the skin and we all have the same organs, the same blood and everything. We just look different on the outside, and that's how I kind of feel about Sasquatch.
Edie Caito is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking Sasquatch and what it's like to have a gifting site. We're going to get to more of your questions. I know we're backed up on the questions. I will get to them. I do promise you that. Keep it on going, everyone. Edie's going to be with us for the full show, so we're going to get into more Sasquatch this hour. And in hour number 3, we're going to actually get to a UFO encounter that Edie had recently. And you know me, love me some UFOs. So we're going to get into that as well. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Hour number 2 coming up right after the break.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spaceoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spaceoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from Your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? We have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Dr. Frank Woodard is going to join us. Frederick Woodward, pardon me. We're going to be talking about paranormal. We're going to be talking about hypnotherapy. We're going to be talking how the two tie in together starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live right now at KTLK, The Fringe FM, United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. And we're also live in Las Vegas on Renegade Talk Radio. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hematogenesis. Hematogenesis is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with me live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Find me on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can tune us in on TuneIn, iHeartRadio in the United States, Follow us on iTunes, and we're on TalkStream Live as well. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, read up on the encounter online, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, rock out to some Bumblefoot, or catch some videos from Contact TV and UFO Seekers. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. We're talking Bigfoot tonight. Edie Caito is an investigator researcher out of Indiana who has some amazing stories in regards to her connection with Sasquatch. Edie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. We were talking about the gifting sites a little bit earlier because that is your main focus on how you are connecting through a gifting site. What have you noticed that Sasquatch has really liked from what you put in there?
Their favorite things are, as far as food goes, bananas, apples, pears. They like, again, the shelf-stable milk, because they go through that immediately. Just boom, it's gone. Peanut butter and animal crackers and pie. They like the nuts and seed bars. I leave the big bags of the mixed nuts and seeds that you can get, that are the raw rather than being the processed or baked or anything. They really like that stuff. And as far as things I leave, they love the like little. They almost look like crystals, but they're plastic, and you can find them in different colors, like to go in aquariums and stuff. I buy those by the bag. And, kind of make little designs and shapes on the ground. And they take those, they disappear, marbles, and, like I said, balls. They love balls. They've had basketballs, soccer balls, little round balls that when you throw them down, they light up and sparkle. And I can't take any of the smaller, like play balls like you can buy for little kids, because they immediately smash those. I had left one out once that it was a smaller little ball, and it was Spider-Man. And I thought they hadn't touched it until I went to kind of rearrange the gifting site. I reached over to touch it, and it was flat. And I turned it over, and of course they had squeezed it so hard the little rubber thing had popped out. But also, when I picked it up, I noticed that they had squeezed it so hard that they had left their handprint all the way around the ball. And I still have this ball to this day sitting on my dresser, because you can see the handprint where they had squeezed this ball so hard that the little plug just popped right out of it.
I remember you telling me a story about juice boxes, and this is how I believe you got the teeth imprints.
Actually, the milk that I leave are in like the juice box type things. And I didn't get the markings off that. They were Mott's brand apple juice. They were in plastic bottles, the really thick, heavy plastic that you can find. And they come in like 6-packs and 12-packs. And what they had done is, instead of taking the lid off, is they had bitten it from the bottom and just left the top and bottom tooth impressions where they had just bitten into it, made a hole, and then drank it. And I was able to cast the front incisors off of this bottle. And I was talking to a friend of mine on Facebook. I do believe you've had Jody Cook on your show before.
Yes, we have.
And Jody and I were talking, and he was talking about a tooth that he had found. And I told him, I said, oh my God, I said, I got some great tooth castings off of this plastic bottle. And we talked about it back and forth. Well, I got a message request from a gentleman, and he said that he had seen what I had said to Jody and wanted to know if I would look at this paper that he had done, this research paper, because it was a study done at Mount Olympus. They had done bone pile studies by measuring tooth marks and tooth impressions and everything. And they had some impressions of front incisors that could only be from, they said they were very human-like, but they were far too large to be human. And they actually presented this at a mainstream scientific convention about a year and a half or so ago, and it went over really well. And so he said, go to, here's the PDF, go to this page. And so I started writing down the measurements, got out my little millimeter tape measure and measured my castings, and they matched his within 1/8 of a millimeter. That was very, very exciting for me.
Now, with those prints from the teeth that you received, there's a lot of people who would say, well, are there any other animals out there who have those types of teeth patterns?
Yeah, not in the state of Indiana, no. And in, I don't really know of very many forest creatures that have the front flat incisors like we do that are kind of scooped a little bit. Not that I'm aware of. And just the sheer size of them is the impressive part. And so, considering that they had several of these teeth marks, they did have canine markings that I compared with some of the holes that I have in like aluminum and metal containers where they had bitten through those. They matched up as well as far as the size goes. So that kind of, with their scientific study, told me that what I had was definitely not human, and it definitely was not any animal in the state of Indiana.
Let's get to more questions from our audience. Dawn is asking, Edie, have you ever caught anything strange or odd, or even Bigfoot itself, on your game cams?
I have caught a lot of odd things. Not Bigfoot himself, herself, themselves. As I said, I always ask permission before I leave an audio recorder. I got the trail cam because I wanted to experiment. I wanted to see if they would tear it down or what they would do. So I brought it out. I held it up. I said, this is what this is. I'm going to put it right here on this tree. If you want to be seen, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. But I spent a lot of money on this, so I kind of appreciate it if you don't tear it down and tear it into pieces. But here you can open this little door. Here's the button. You can turn it off. Just like you can turn off my recorders, you can turn this off too. And the few weeks that I left it, I didn't get any Sasquatch on there, but I got a few pictures that have lined up pretty much with a lot of other researchers that are like a complete whiteout. You could barely see, like, the trees and stuff in the background, but it was like really overexposed. And I got these every single time I left it. And there were a couple of pictures that were very odd. There was like this big, oddly shaped blob blur that was right smack dab in the middle of the camera, right smack dab in front of the container that I leave the food in. And it was there at different times. It wasn't like it just stayed there, one picture after another. It was there for maybe 20 minutes, and then it was clear again. So it's extremely odd. I've talked to friends of mine that are hunters who have those cameras out on a regular basis and said that they'd never really gotten anything like that, not on a regular basis, especially the whiteout photos. And so no pictures of Bigfoot. I've gotten a lot of other animals on there, but some, pretty bizarre things that I just can't explain.
Let's get to another question. This one coming from Ron. He is saying, do family units tend to their young as a human father-mother would, that you have learned, or do the young, as far as you know, get raised by a group?
Actually, this is kind of fun because I've never seen the family unit together. though I know that there has to be a female because there is a baby, because I have footprints from the toddler who's probably, I would say, probably about 6, maybe 7 now. I've heard a baby. That's just happened recently this past spring. And but the reason I know this is the family, again, I was telling you about. The dad had gotten up to use the restroom in the middle of the night. He said it was like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and they have a huge picture window leading out toward their backyard. And as he was walking back through, he looked out, and there was a juvenile. He said probably about the size of a teenager, and there were 2 very small baby Bigfoots that were kind of running around in front of him playing, and he was watching them as these little ones ran around his backyard, played with his kids' toys, and he said he just stood there with his mouth just hanging open. So from what I have heard, what I have seen as far as the family unit, because I know when they come in that sometimes the young one is there with them because the toys are played with and whatnot, and from what they have experienced, to me it seems as if Mom and Dad do raise them. They live in a clan as a family. And when Mom and Dad go out and hunt during the night, that the teenagers, the older child, is the one that watches after the young ones.
So they do have almost like a bonding. It's almost like elephants, is what you're saying.
Yeah, or like a human family.
Right.
I mean, because a lot of people, if they have older kids and they have younger kids, they have the older kids watch the little ones while Mom and Dad go to the grocery store. And so I see, their units very much like our family units, but they also, like in some cultures, their elders stay in the clan as well.
All right, let's get to some more questions here. Trip is asking in the Spreaker chat room, you mentioned prints and teeth marks earlier. Have you casted any prints yet, and have you collected any hair samples?
Yes. Between myself, I have personally cast 2, which one was a baby footprint. The second one was actually at the spring camp out. I found it near a lake, and we all kind of went and group casted it. And within our group, we have casting starting at the baby that I cast all the way up to a foot that they've cast several times. This 18 inches long and about, I think it's like 6.5, 7 inches wide. And we also have a handprint that was taken off of the side of like a sand bank leading down to the White River. And there were footprints cast there, as well as a handprint where that we're assuming it's a female had climbed up. And the handprint came out very good in 3D. You can actually see the fingernails in this casting. It's so amazing. And as far as hair samples, I have gotten hair samples where, like I said, remember how I said they like to pick off stickers? Well, underneath that gets really sticky. So we've gotten hair caught on that. I find hair all the time around the area and just kind of collect it. They like to chew on straws too. The little straws that come off of the juice boxes or the milk boxes. They don't use those. They poke a hole. I showed them where to poke a hole. You don't have to bite into it. Just poke a hole here. So now they bite through that hole and drink it. But then they take the straws out and chew on them. So yeah, I've got DNA. I've got hair. We've got footprints. We've got a lot of things.
Let's get to Kim's question. She is asking, why does it seem that the same people see Bigfoot and aliens, and people like her never get to see anything?
I think it, like us, the first time it was happenstance. It just happened. It was accidental. But they've showed themselves to us more, and I think that's because, I showed interest in them and showed trust in them and showed that I wanted to build a relationship. That's why I believe that we continue to have the experiences we do. I think it's more of like with Bigfoot, I think it's more of them knowing your intentions, and if they choose to allow you to see them. And as far as aliens and UFOs and things like that, that I can't answer. I think it's just being in the right place at the right time.
I'll tell you, Kim, you don't want it. You don't want it. Be thankful. Be thankful. It'll drive you crazy.
It does. You do get a little obsessed.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But, it's funny because I was chatting with a good friend of mine that I've known for about 20 years, actually even longer because I used to play hockey with his brother growing up. And he was asking me about all of my stories and interactions. And he just actually said to me, do you regret this happening? And I said, I don't regret it, but it's the loss that you take with it. The loss of friends, the loss of credibility, that because people think you're going haywire. So it's really a catch-22. Did you find that as well, Edie?
No, I've had a few people, mostly like parents of my daughter's friends, who've said, "Oh yeah, your mom's the crazy Bigfoot lady," and things like that. But a lot of the people who do know me enough to where they know that there's no way I would make something like this up. That I'm just that kind of person. I'm just a believable person, and that I'm not out, like I said, for 15 minutes of fame. I don't want my own Bigfoot show on TV. I don't want any of that. It's just something that happened to me and something I find really fascinating and very exciting. And, I'll be honest with you. I have met so many more people through doing these shows like with you who have become my friends on Facebook. And so I think in actuality, I've kind of grown my circle of friends.
I've grown my circle of friends in this genre. All of my personal friends that I grew up with or got to know over, say, the last decade, they're all gone. They're all gone.
Wow.
It has been very tough. And there's something that I'll open up to. I don't open up to much on this, but it's amazing how people will cast you aside if they think just because you believe something else that it's, going to affect who you are,
That's their loss. I look at it as
so.
Their loss. Because my friends, whether they believe in Bigfoot or not, have stuck by me. They've really rallied around me and encouraged me when it comes to writing the books and everything. Because, a lot of people don't know that I have a chronic illness. I'm a pretty sick person, but I don't let the pain that I feel on a daily basis hold me back, because I look at life as I can be in pain and lay here in bed and watch the world go by, or I can be in pain and be out there doing things. And so when it comes to the Bigfoot research and everything, this is what gets me out and keeps me moving, keeps me going forward, and keeps me from, not folding in on myself, because I know I'm going to feel like this the rest of my life.
Right.
And that's a pretty daunting thing to think about. But it's changed my life. And my friends know that I'm just not the kind of person who's going to go out and make up some crazy freaking story like this. So whether they believe or not, whether they think I'm a little cuckoo or not, they've all still hung around. And I'm very blessed, and I'm very lucky for that. And I've got to say, I've had a couple of friends who are skeptics, and I'm going to call Jason Block out on this one. He and I have been friends since right around 2004. Online friends. He lives out in New York, and the first time he heard one of these stories, he laughed. But when he picked up my first book and read it, I had him convinced. Although I wasn't trying to convince him, I just told him the stories. And he is now a believer. He's much less of a skeptic.
Yes, I love the skeptical type. I have to ask this question, and I'll do the answering on this one because I think I think it's a hilarious question. Normally, I don't ask snarky questions on here, but this one is funny enough where I do have to ask, Edie. And I
love snark.
Okay, this one comes from Sailor Twift. Does the Bigfoot yell sound like people in the middle of the night when you leave the toilet seat up and you fall in?
I've heard them scream like that.
Me too.
I have gotten some pretty horrifying screams that you would think, I mean, the first thing you do is you jump and go, what the hell?
I know.
Wait, the one that we, in Yellowwood, that we've recorded, I still have a recording on my phone. We call it the Yellowwood Screamer. Because this thing will scream like a woman afraid of a rat. And then at the very end, it'll drop and go, rah, 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 and it'll talk. And then it'll scream really high-pitched again. So, yeah, I would probably take some of those screams and compare them to falling, getting your butt in the cold water in the toilet in the middle of the night. Oh, absolutely.
Mrs. SOR doesn't like when that happens. I'm not going to lie. She doesn't like when that happens.
It's not fun because you go to sit down gently and you don't sit down gently. You fall like a sack of potatoes. It's like,
I know. Blame Canada. When in doubt, blame Canada. Let's get to more questions from our audience because we are really backed up here on the questions. Watchdog is asking, have you ever tried communicating, gifting with music or speech recordings, pictures, drawing materials?
I've tried drawing materials. They never really had much to do with that. Recordings I have done. I actually have 26 hours of recording at the gifting site until they decided, okay, I'm done, and turned the recorder off themselves. Where I can hear them walking into the gifting site. I can hear the container opening. I can hear packages rattling and crunching and slurping, and you can tell that this is a big creature just having a good old snack. So yeah, I've done that. I do use music. I have some Native American flute music and some other type music. I have a Native American chant on my phone. I play those a lot. I actually got really crazy reaction from that when we were in Yellowwood for the camp out. So yeah, I do. I use a lot of things. Surprisingly, I've even used a little small disco ball, left it in the middle of the forest with a bunch of bananas, and that turned out to be amazing. Because they gravitated right to it, and they started taking bananas, and every time I go back to check, there would be a banana broken off from the bunch, and then at the end of the night when I went back, the whole night they had taken 2 bananas, and the rest of the bananas had been turned over and balanced on top of the same stump in an arch upside down, which I really couldn't see any other critter being able to do that. So yeah, I use lights, I use sound, I use music. We've used the laser grid. I try to do anything that would entertain them or draw their attention.
Let's move on to the questions. Dawn is asking, what did the baby Sasquatch sound like?
Oh my gosh, it was... I can't explain it. It sounded like a cross between an infant crying and a dog whining, and it's so hard to explain. I'd never heard the sound like it before, and so I can't describe it. And at that time, it was just myself and my daughter. I didn't have the rest of my equipment with me, so I couldn't record it. But I just kept hearing it over and over and over. And one of their stick structures, which are like the asterisks, a lot of people believe that the number of sticks that are in these will represent how many are in a clan. And it did kind of add up with the sightings we had seen and how many of the sticks were there. Well, a smaller one was added. And for some reason, I just had a feeling that there was a new baby. And also the experience you and I had together when you told me that they wanted to show me the baby.
Let's get into that, because a lot of people will not understand that you and I have never met. We've just talked on the phone, and we're Facebook friends. So I guess that's good enough. You know,
yeah. But it was the very, very first time you and I had ever spoken, and it was like within the first 2 minutes. And you can take it from there because you're the one that...
Oh, goodness. You're going to have to remind me a lot about this. Because I remember telling you that I asked you point blank, and I was having this vision of this. And this is where I'm going to... I hate telling these stories on the air because I'm so... I don't know why, but I'm so worried and concerned that people are going to think that I'm,
a woo?
A woo-woo kind of guy. Right. Yeah. Right. So,
but there was no way. This is more than coincidence, folks. So listen up.
So I had said to you that I was getting a vision that you and your daughter, somewhere near the gifting site, there was this big circular round area of just tall grass, and that you and your daughter were supposed to go in there because the family wanted to get close to you. They wanted to feel you out, so to speak, and lo and behold, I have no idea to this day where your gifting site is, how you get there, where it is on the map. I couldn't pinpoint it. You've never told me. But this is the vision that I got. And it happened. So fill the rest in. You take it over from here.
Well, all I can say is when he said when you're standing on the path outside your gifting site, about 70 yards in this direction, is there a large round grassy area? And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And Dave's like, what? I said, yes, there is. It's an area where the forestry, they'll go through every so often, and they'll clear these big circular areas so new growth will come through. And this one had been done probably maybe 10 years ago. So there were like baby trees starting to pop up here and there, but the area was circular, and the grass at that time was just above our knees. And so there's no way Dave could have known that. No way. So it completely and totally blew my mind. And so after Dave had told me that, I was talking to a friend of mine who just popped out and said, you're supposed to go on the summer solstice. I'm like, what? She goes, you're supposed to be somewhere? And they said the summer solstice. So I kind of put two and two together, and that's the night that my daughter and I did go out there, and we had the most incredible night. We went out, and we sat in the circular area, and we waited. And it was so funny because my daughter looked up and she started laughing. She goes, check this out, Mom. There's 2 stars in the sky, one above me and one above you. And she was right. And then I heard footsteps coming from behind me. And we turned to look that direction. We acknowledged they were there. We sat back down, and another star appeared. And then we had it to our left. We had it to our right, and pretty soon we heard them. They were completely around us. And to this day, I don't know if they were going to come forward or not, but it was kind of a stormy night. It was starting to get dark, so we went ahead and headed back to the campground, and that's when we saw that somebody else had come into the campground and had set up further down. And it was late that night. It did storm a little bit. It rained, and we turned in for the night. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I heard gunshots. And this is summer. We do have hunting allowed in these state parks, but only during hunting season. And the summer, isn't any guns allowed. So hearing this in the middle of the night in the summer kind of rattled me. So I sat up in bed or there on my cot, kind of listened, and I laid back down, and all of a sudden I heard footsteps just barreling up the side of the ridge. And this is a ridge that, I mean, even somebody who is used to hiking, it will take you several minutes to get up it because it's so steep. But these footsteps just boom, boom, and I heard the trees and the branches and everything being moved out of the way. And as soon as it hit the ground of the campsite, I felt the footprints. I could feel it. He moved from the edge of the forest to our tent, which is probably, I don't know how many feet. It would probably take me 20 or 30 steps. It took him maybe 4, and he was next to the tent. And I laid there thinking, okay, I'm not scared, but my heart is in my throat. I can't even hear because my heart is just slamming against my chest. My daughter's next to me snoring. She's gone. I mean, nothing was going to wake her up. And he stepped behind the tent and went to step over next to my window, which was unzipped just a little bit, and actually walked into the guy line of the tent and made the back end of the tent buckle. And then he stepped back, it kind of sprung back up. He stepped around, and I laid there, and I was frozen. I wasn't scared, but I could not turn my head to look out that window. And I still to this day don't know why. And so he then stepped around to my daughter's side, and then he walked off toward where the other camper was. And we spoke to him the next day and asked him if he heard anything unusual. And he looked at me and he goes, I thought maybe it was you guys, but now I see you're females. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, something was walking around my tent. And he looked at me and he goes, I'm afraid to ask. And I'm like, well, I said, we had the same visitor. And he said, well, I was up and I heard gunshots and I was, watching a movie on my computer. And he goes, but I didn't see any flashlights or anything. I had no idea. He goes, please don't tell me it's Bigfoot. I said, it's Bigfoot. And of course he was a little freaked out. So, so we did get a visit that night. I still to this day know that it came because of the gunshots, possibly to check to make sure we were okay. Because they knew it was just myself and my daughter out there. And I will never forget that night as long as I live. And the way it came about with you, Dave, you saying that to me just completely blew my mind, because there's no way you could have known that big round area was so many yards from my gifting site.
Yes, I still get tripped out when I hear that story, because at times, you just get it. And I got it that night.
You did.
It that night. Absolutely.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. Hey, I'm going to get to more audience questions because we're way backed up on those. Bob is saying, I heard once that someone asked a Bigfoot where he came from. He said he was of the tribe of Cain, who was cast out into the wilderness with the mark on his forehead by God. Do you know of this story or anything about it?
No, I've not heard that story. I haven't. The closest thing I have heard was through that one family that in their dreams, the teenagers would say that they would come to them in their dreams. And the only story that stood out to me was the female, the teenage daughter, said that in the dream, the female Sasquatch was always in front and doing the speaking. The male was always behind her. And she told her name, which she never shared that with me, and that the females were actually the ones that were the heads of the groups. And that was just kind of how their family unit operated, that the females were the ones that were worshipped and, put on a higher level, which would explain why They lived there for 18 years. Everybody in the family has had a sighting, had an experience. But whenever Mom is around, they're quiet. They're always quiet and respectful when the mother is home. But no, that story is beautiful. I've never heard it, though I've heard a lot of Native American tales about where they come from, being the brother of God. So many Native American tribes call him the brother of God.
All right, let's get to another question. This one comes from Joe. You mentioned you've played music for them, but have you ever put out musical instruments as gifts, maybe wind chimes or a flute or a drum?
I have wind chimes out there right now. We've left a recorder-like flute, like the kids play in school. I bought that and left it out there before, and I leave whistles, things like that. I've actually heard, the whistles have been taken. I've heard whistles in the forest, but, I can't be 100% sure that it's one of the whistles that I left out there. But yeah, I do. I leave them things. I try to get creative, and try to find new things to leave for them that, they might find interesting.
Robin is asking if you have ever received a gift back from them.
Yeah, very many. Like I was mentioning earlier, the staff, the petrified wood staff that they left. I believe that was more for my husband because they knew he was terrified of the snakes. But it's beautiful. I have it here in my room. And they have left me the deer antler, of course. They left me at a handful of morel mushrooms. Let me see. Oh, they actually left me turkey feathers one day, and that was an interesting story because I was asking them to let me know they were okay because they hadn't been at the gifting site for a while. And my husband and I left. We went the opposite direction on the trail, and when we came back, there were 5 turkey feathers laying in the middle of the trail end to end. And I took it as they were letting me know. My husband's like, no. And I'm like, what? A turkey just came here and blew up, and the feathers just happened to land this way. And so the following week when we came out, there was another turkey feather, and it was sticking out of the brick that was sitting on top of the food container. And I said, okay, explain this one. And he said, I can't. So yeah, I've gotten things like that. They left an arrow that they had found in the woods for me, which led me to finding 2 illegal deer stands, tree stands that were out there. So yeah, they leave me little things. It's not all the time. It's every few months or so, but yeah, they've left me a lot of little things.
Let's get to another question. Catherine is saying, you found a handprint. How large was the handprint, and was it in proportion with the foot size?
Yes. The handprint was actually, we're assuming it was female because the same area was found juvenile prints that were probably the size of maybe an 8 or a 10-year-old child. The handprints were, I'm a pretty small person, so I can't really judge, but I could lay my hand on top, and the fingers were maybe, I'd say about 3 or 4 inches longer than mine. The palm size was just slightly larger. So it definitely, considering that there was very small prints with hers, we're assuming that it was female. But there's really no way of knowing for sure.
Eric is asking, do you believe that their DNA would register as almost like human?
I've heard that the DNAs, and a lot of people keep to this day saying that it does not exist, but it does. And they said it coming up human and unknown. So it is coming up that the DNA that has been processed, that they can't figure out what it is part human and part unidentified. So yeah, I believe it wholeheartedly that that's what it is.
I'm just going to remind people who are asking questions here, we don't squatch around here, we don't footers around here, we Bigfoot and we Sasquatch. I'm sorry, it's a pet peeve of mine. All these nicknames that are out there. So if I don't ask your question the correct way that you typed it, okay, let's use the proper language here. I'm sorry, there's something about it that just pisses me off, and I think it dumbs down the entire research field when we say squatch or crap like that. So
yeah, like those guys on Mountain Monsters. I'm gonna give me my shotgun. I'm gonna go. Oh my God! It took my shotgun. There's a Bigfoot running around with my shotgun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and I'll tell the people why it bugs me. Okay, John Bindernagel, who has been researching Sasquatch here in British Columbia for almost 70 years. I mean, he's in his 80s now. He started as a teenager, and he's still running around the mountains and the forests of Vancouver Island trying to gather evidence. And I remember talking with him face to face, and I asked him, I said, what do you think about all these terms like squatch? And watching him go from so ecstatic about hearing my Bigfoot story to getting really dejected, where he took a deep sigh and he was just like, well, you can thank television for that. Because we got to dumb everything down. It was almost like that one word, squatch, killed his 70 years of research at that point. So that's why if you're asking me or to say squatch or some crap like that, I will not do it. Okay, I just will not go there. I think it's insulting to true researchers out there. So let's get to Catherine's question. She says she saw a show called Mountain Monsters. They were working on the Bigfoot angle and said that the Bigfoot liked corn mash. Does that correlate with any of your information?
Well, we live in Indiana. And a lot of people know who are from the United States that they equate Indiana with corn. So yeah, we do. Corn and soybeans are our main commodity out here, and so they're able to go through these cornfields and get fresh sweet corn whenever they want, and when it's in season. So yeah, I would say yeah.
So there we go. Let's get to another question, this one coming from Preacher. He said, is there any chance that one day soon we can get some audio to hear those clips?
Yeah, I mean, if Dave can ever figure out how to play them,
yeah.
I can send them to him because...
the thing is, I can play them, but you're not going to be able to hear them. That's the stupidity of this setup. Until I figure that out, and there is a way, and I haven't figured it out yet.
I mean, I'm going to try something really quick just for this person because I have this recording on my phone of the Yellowwood Screamer. And it is, like I said, it is one of the craziest. It's not near as good as the one that we caught of the full-on 30-second speech that this Bigfoot gave us. It wasn't screaming, it was talking. That one's harder to hear, but this one in particular, I can put it right to the microphone and see if I can get this to come up, because it's very loud, and again, obviously not another animal, because if you listen very carefully at the end of the screams, you will hear the voice drop down low and you can hear it talk. So let me see. Let me just push this button and see if you can hear this or not. Okay, were you able to hear that?
Yeah, that came through loud and clear, that's for sure.
Okay, so I don't know if you were able to listen close enough to hear that third scream where it actually drops down in pitch and it speaks afterward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. The first recording we got was in the middle of winter, we were back at a campground in the middle of the night. It was like 2:30 in the morning. We'd been out there most of the night. Middle of winter, it's like 15 degrees. So we decide to pack up. And we go to leave, and something behind the bathrooms howls. And of course, this is like in the very beginning. So I was still scared of them. And we ran. And then that's when we realized that we had left the recorders back. My husband had to go all the way back down. Once we got the recorders home and listened, we realized that after the howl, this Bigfoot started speaking. And it spoke for almost for a full 30 seconds. And you can tell it's language. It's actual language, but it's not anything I've ever heard. But it does, in some of my Native American chants that I play, I can hear very similar words to what that Bigfoot spoke. So yeah, we've got some great, great recordings. Those are the things that I love the most, are the recordings that we get.
Awesome. Let's get to another question here. And this one comes from my good friend Corey, who one of these days we're going to, maybe even this weekend, Corey, let's go out looking for Sasquatch. How about that? Call me. You got my number. She says, have you ever sent any of your hair samples to anyone? If not, why?
I have not, because I've not found any reputable or open ongoing scientific studies. If another one opens up, I would be happy to send what I have. But as of right now, I don't know of anybody who's accepting samples and running or doing any of the Bigfoot laboratory stuff right now.
And follow-up question from Corey. Do people try to follow you out to your gifting site? Because I know she totally would.
Yeah, most of the time we try to time it to where there aren't many people around. We like to go on Sundays. Sometimes we'll go during the week because a lot of the times, people have left the campgrounds and everything for the weekend. A lot of people have seen us walk by and go down a trail, and nobody's ever followed us. So even if they did, by the time we went off trail, I seriously don't think they'd follow, because I go off trail into the thicket, and I come home every single weekend cut up from all of the thorns and things like that. I mean, I want to make sure it is back in an area where humans just aren't going to happen to walk by and see it. It is in the middle of the very, very thick part of the forest.
Excellent. We only got a few minutes here before we need to go to our second break of the night. In the next hour, we're going to get into the July expedition that turned out very, very interesting for you. And I was going to start it now, but I'm thinking, you know what? That one's going to take some time, so there's no point in getting into it until we get back from our break. But while we're at it, with the gifting site, if there are people out there who are interested in trying to put a gifting site together, would you recommend it?
I would. I'd like to encourage people that if they want to research in this way, that it's very fulfilling. Because like I said, I feel like rather than just going out and looking for them or going out and trying to find footprints and things like that, I'm building a rapport and a relationship and a trust with them. For example, last summer after I'd had the surgery on my leg, when I was finally able to get back out there, I was still in a wheelchair. And, I'd speak to them and tell them, I'm sorry I haven't been out, but we're going to go over to this area and we're going to sit for a little while if you want to come over and let us know you're around. And it was fantastic because we were sitting out there pitch black, just kind of listening to nature, and all of a sudden, maybe 20 feet behind us was the loudest tree knock. I mean, we literally came up out of our chairs. It was just so close and so loud. And there was nobody anywhere to be seen. And so if that's the kind of relationship you want to build to where they start coming to you, I would highly suggest doing it. People like to, research in different ways. This is just the way that fits for me.
Once again, we are looking at this gifting site, and where you're putting it, you are not putting it in a place along a trail where people can find it. You're putting it off an off-beaten path, maybe a deer trail or something that isn't very well traveled. Have you ever had humans find your gifting site?
As far as I know, no. As far as I know, if they have, they've left it be. Because if anybody wanted to go out there and try to hoax me, they would have to know a whole lot about my particular clan, because I've gotten to know them so much that I know how they tear open wrappers. I know how they bite into things. So, if somebody was going to come out to my site and say, take the bananas, do they know how they eat them? The fact that they tear off the stickers and they leave them in a certain place, the fact that they usually leave no trace whatsoever of the bananas except for the stickers. So there are a lot of these things that I've learned about this clan over the years that unless it's somebody who knows me very, very closely, they would not know all of the things, because I haven't told everybody everything, every little quirk. So, if anybody has ever found it, they've respected it and they've left it alone.
Exactly. And let's face it, you do have to keep some secrets to yourself.
Yes, absolutely. The only people who know where my site is now is myself, my husband, and my daughter.
And on that note, we are going to hop on out for our final break of the night. We are talking Sasquatch with Edie Caito, gifting sites, what the Sasquatch are like. Are they a vicious creature, or are they just a very intelligent, docile cryptid out there? We'll find out more about our July expedition coming up right after the break. And, of course, go on Amazon, pick up one of Edie's books. It's a great read. You deserve to pick it up. I highly suggest you do. This is probably the most, or one of the most, honest Sasquatch researchers you will ever find doing radio. And that's why we love having Edie back so often. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back with more SOR in the final hour and Sasquatch talk right after this.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk to Dr. Frederick Woodard. We're going to talk about the paranormal and how it ties in to the experiences with hypnotherapy beginning at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hematogenesis. Hematogenesis is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night, right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to connect with me live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can follow me on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States, TalkStream Live, TuneIn, and you can also subscribe to us on iTunes at Spaced Out Radio. Now, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month, rock out to some Bumblefoot. You can also check out Contact TV and UFO Seekers videos. Along with that, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. Everything at spacedoutradio.com. For the final time tonight, I introduce Edie Caito. She's an investigative researcher of Sasquatch in Indiana. She has a very active gifting site. Edie, welcome back.
Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem. Now, you wanted to talk to us about this July expedition that you went on just recently, about the action that you got, not only with Sasquatch, but paranormal as well.
Yeah, well, actually, we didn't have any paranormal thing happen. This happens to be the place where this all started when we had that paranormal experience, and where I was writing the book based on this. This particular area, very near there is where these 18-inch footprints have been casted, and there have been sightings in the area and such. And it's a historic cabin that was built in the 1800s that is still there on the state land. It's a historic landmark, and you can actually rent this little cabin for $30 a night. And behind it is like a big camping circle with a big fire ring in the middle and everything. So we rented it and went down there for the weekend, and invited people to come down and visit with us and everything. And we had activity all weekend. The first night, it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was sitting there on my cot. I think Vince and one of his friends was still out in another area of the woods, or I don't know. He may have even still, no, he had already come to bed, and I heard a scream. And there's just no mistaking when you hear a Sasquatch scream that it's anything else. And I heard a scream, and I went and kind of unzipped the window of the tent, and I look out, and my daughter had gotten out of her tent and was going to go pee. And I see her kind of stop dead in her tracks, and her eyes are darting back and forth while this thing is just screaming and screaming. And then all of a sudden we heard just a big crash. And, of course, the next day we went back and saw that a pretty large branch had just been ripped down out of a tree back behind the campsite. And so it was the next day we had gone back because my daughter and I love to go and play, because there's a creek that runs past this with like a several tier of, they're not big waterfalls, but they're very small limestone waterfalls, and we love to go back there and walk through the waterfalls and just kind of cool off and everything. Well, I had left her and her boyfriend and went back to the campsite, and as I was going back, I heard rocks clacking together. And I looked at the kids and I jokingly said, they're watching you. And so they went about their business. I went back to the campsite. They come walking back about 30 minutes later and said, did you come down the path? And I'm like, no. He said, did anybody come down the path? No. And apparently they heard very loud, very clear footsteps, just boom, 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 boom. They look up and they didn't see anybody. And so this is in broad daylight. The second night, we got the same thing. We heard a big crash, and then we heard some howling, some whoops, some tree knocks, and they were all coming from behind the campsite. And the third night, which this is the part that really gets me, and this is something that's got my mind going in a different direction. Myself and my husband and a friend of his were going to walk up to where his friend had his car parked. So that meant leaving from behind the cabin, going around the cabin, across the bridge, and up the hill. So we were a little ways away. My daughter and her boyfriend were already asleep in the tent. So this left my husband's friend and coworker there by himself. And he was sitting back in one of our, those zero gravity kind of lounge chairs that you can get for camping. He was kicked back in this, and you got to understand this friend of his name's Dennis. He's from Kenya. He's been camping with us before. He kind of didn't know what to think about the whole Bigfoot thing. So him being able to hear the screams and stuff was kind of exciting. So we had kind of left him there by himself for a few minutes, and we went across the bridge, and we came back. He was looking at us, and all you could see were the whites of his eyes. And he said, something came up to me. Something came up to me. He said, I'm sitting here. I've got my hoodie up, and I'm leaning back. And he said, all of a sudden, I felt warmth, like something was standing behind me. And he said it reached up, and we had one of those like gazebo type tarp things, or I don't even know what you call them, set up so we would have shade during the day. And he said it reached up and smacked it like 3 times and then turned around. And when he heard our voices, it turned around and walked. He heard it walking away. And he said that he was frozen. He could not move. He said he wanted to turn his head and look, but he couldn't. And I felt the same exact way in the tent that night. It was bizarre. I was shaken, but I wasn't scared. But yet I couldn't turn my head to look. So this thing had walked up behind him, stood right behind his chair, and had smacked that to let him know it was there. And we did listen to the recorder, and though you couldn't hear it walk up, you could hear our voices. You could hear it walk away, get into the creek, and start walking down the creek. You could hear it in the water. So that was just a truly exciting and amazing thing that they did this to him while we were all gone. So he would have that experience. And it just, he still just cannot stop talking about it. And I thought it was pretty amazing myself. And now it makes me wonder, is it our internal fear, the fight or flight type thing, or what is it that's causing us not to turn our head when we know it's right there? Is this something that they are not allowing us to do? Or is it just our minds kind of shutting down and just telling us, don't look, it's too close to you?
I think it has something to do with the fact that they don't want to scare us. They're afraid of our reaction. And I'll take a situation much different, but when I had my first extraterrestrial encounter with Samantha Mowat, the one extraterrestrial telepathically told her that we were more than welcome to go over to them and say hello. However, they were afraid of my health. They were afraid for me. And I'm wondering if it has something to do with the same aspect if this creature is working on a different level, if you know what I'm saying, than what we are used to.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, like I said, I always leave my mind open, whether I'm going to outright believe something or not. I'd rather experience it first. So, yeah, sometimes I have more questions than answers.
Don't we all? And that's why we do this thing called Spaced Out Radio. I do have an interesting comment here from Joe in the chat room. He's saying, a few minutes ago I was watching some deer in my yard until Edie played the Bigfoot recording, then the deer took off.
That's interesting.
Well, Joe thinks he does have Sasquatch in his backyard forest. Mm-hmm. He's just never seen them. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were used to that sound.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. And I've heard recordings that sound similar to the recordings that we've gotten. Well, except I've never heard a speech recording like we have. Because the one we have is just so unique. I've never heard another researcher or anybody post one that sounds quite like this one. But a lot of the screams sound similar. Like there's one called the Ohio Howler. We have one out here that sounds exactly the same. That long, drawn-out, high-pitched howl. The screaming sounds very similar.
Yes, I've heard that in my area too. Have you noticed with the sounds that are being created by this creature, have you noticed that they don't echo?
Well, actually, in that first recording that we got where he's talking, his voice is just so booming. It's just so loud. But no, you do not hear an echo at all. And now that I think about it, listening to the other recordings, I don't remember hearing any echoes.
That's what shocked me about when I heard the roar/scream. The one time that I have heard it was in an area where we would hear animals echoing all the time. You know, whether it was horses or cows or dogs barking or whatever it was. And when this creature screamed and howled, I don't know how else to put it. I mean, there really is no definition to what that sound truly is, but there was no echo at all. And that surprised me about it. And it amazes me how many researchers have these recordings and have never thought about if it echoes or not.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find that very, very intriguing that if you're not getting echoes, I mean, is it like a duck? Because ducks don't echo.
I don't know. I've just never really thought about it before.
It is an interesting tidbit.
It is. It is just another thing to make me, have another question. That's something I'll have to discuss with the group.
I would
because
appreciate
we've all
that.
heard it. Yeah, we've all heard him so many times that, yeah, and now that I think about it, it's not echoed. Like I said, that his voice that we have recorded is very deep, very loud, very booming, just woo, almost like you could feel it in your chest. But here we were in the middle of winter where you can clap your hands and it'll echo, but yet there is no echo on that recording.
Exactly. The mystery continues.
Interesting.
Yeah, sorry to throw another tidbit onto your plate.
Oh, no. I mean, if I didn't continually have these questions, it would get boring. So, it's until somebody has a Sasquatch in their possession or can sit down and have a conversation with one, we're always going to have questions.
The crowd in the chat rooms is asking whether you could play that tape again or not.
Yeah, it's right here on my phone. I mean,
right.
if you want me to,
that would be
bring
great.
it up here.
That would be great.
Okay, and this time, just remember to listen very closely to the end, and then that way you can hear the the very end of the scream. Listen closely to the end of the scream, and I know in between the second and the third scream you hear some voices. Those are that's Jim and his wife, and they're kind of talking back and forth. And then the third scream you will hear, and then you will hear the voice drop back down. And it's 28 seconds. So let me get my phone turned around here and push play. Okay.
Just keeps on going. See, that even just hearing that puts goosebumps on my back, in my arms.
Well, it's funny because this particular recording, Jim and his wife got, and this was taken at Yellowwood, and this was during the spring camp out, and we had gone up to the pond the last night. My husband and I did, just by ourselves, and we sat out there under the we were in a pine grove, and we sat out there, and I played some of my flute music and some of the stuff I had on my phone for a little while, and it stayed relatively quiet. And I had put out one of my glow lights, had it on flashing pattern, and we noticed like 5 minutes it had been turned off. So I went back, turned it back on again. This time it blinked for maybe 15, 20 minutes and got turned off. And so, we didn't hear a whole lot or anything, so we went, grabbed the light, and we're headed back. And as we were coming around the pond, this same exact Sasquatch started screaming at us. And it was just to the tree line in front of us. I mean, it was there. I mean, it was very loud, and it screamed just like that, but 5 times. And I have it on, it's on one of our audio recorders, and I actually took a video of the audio recorder playing it the next day at the campground and posted it on my Facebook page. So it's like way down my wall, but it's up there. But it screamed exactly like that, but it screamed 5 times right in front of us. And so I don't know how long it had been there watching us or listening to us, but it obviously was there.
Got a question from Mike here, and he is saying or asking, how many times have you smelled a Bigfoot when you could not see it?
Smelled it. Not often. I can say a couple of times that we have gotten the whiff. One time it smelled like dirty, wet, disgusting dog. And another time we had a very, very strong smell of urine. And this was right after we had heard one kind of growl and kind of make a chuff right in between 2 groups that were out up in the forest in the middle of the night. We were kind of stationed in different places, and it kind of went between our groups and made a whole lot of noise. And that smell just kind of hung in the air.
Mm-hmm. On the tape, there's a little bit of confusion on the tape that you just played.
Uh-huh.
The people that we hear in the background speaking, is that you guys?
No. This is Jim and his wife, Tanya, the Wisers. They are part of the IBRO.
Okay.
And this was their... he sent me the recording and has given me permission to share it. And like I said, we have the same Sasquatch screaming at us. I actually have... That's up on my Facebook wall, but you'd have to scroll down to, like, May before you'd find it. But yeah, we've gotten that one recorded ourselves.
Let's get to a question from Roger. I think this is an interesting question. He's saying, has anybody ever tried going out to your gifting site and singing to them to see what their reaction would be?
No. I've never gone out there to sing. I don't have a good singing voice, so I don't think they'd appreciate it. I have played music. My daughter and I have sat out and listened to the radio and sang around the campsite, because we can go to the campsite and they'll come to us. We don't have to be at the gifting site. Generally, wherever we go in the forest, if they want to come see us, they come see us. And that's the interesting part. That's what everybody, kind of in our group says. If you want to experience something, just hang out with those guys, because they don't go looking for Bigfoot. Bigfoot comes to visit them. And so, yeah, I've never sung for them, but we've played music and kind of sung and been silly and stuff like that. But
right.
No.
Right.
I don't think I wish that, my terrible singing voice, on them.
Well, we can recommend Bumblefoot in these parts. Mr. Ron Thal has a great singing voice, but that's just us. Maybe they like to rock. We don't know. See if we can get Bumblefoot to create a Sasquatch song. That would be kind of cool. But it does lead to a very good point. How do they know, Edie, when you're there? Have you figured that out yet?
I just think it's instinct, intuition. They just know when I'm there. I guess they just feel me or feel my presence coming. Like any creature lives in the woods, can recognize people coming into the area. I just think it's more of a telekinetic, kind of a psychic connection when they know when I'm in the area. I don't know. That's my best guess.
I know Mike Johnson, who you've been on this show with before, believes they recognize the sound of his vehicle.
And that could be. That could be because, vehicles do make a distinct noise. And they might just recognize the sound of my vehicle or my husband's vehicle or both.
It could. It could. And I think that would be the logical answer to that they finally recognize your vehicles. It would be interesting to see if you went up in a different vehicle, if they're still there.
Yeah, that's true. I still think they would be. I really do. I don't know. I just feel like I have gotten that connection with them because we've been doing this for so long, and we've built this relationship, as you will.
Right.
I'm hoping someday that that's my ultimate goal, that they'll feel comfortable enough to come closer to me or show themselves to me while I'm at the gifting site. That's my end goal.
That's the big one. That's the bucket list.
Yeah. But they come around us. We know they're there. They have the juvenile that likes to watch us from the tree, and when it gets really, really pitch black outside, he'll drop out of the tree and just run and scare the living daylights out of us. I think they enjoy that. I really think they enjoy that. They like to get a rise out of us.
Do you think it's maybe just a quick sense that they play on you all the time just to make sure you know who the boss of the forest is?
I don't. I think it's like the whole messing with Sasquatch thing, but in reverse. I think they like to see us, get excited or, make a noise and watch us jump. Or like the time the one come up to my husband's car in the middle of the night while he was changing the batteries in his flashlight and just shook his entire car. And I probably would have been pretty amused watching him jump in the car that fast, close the car door, and completely freak out and not come out till noon the next day. That would be entertaining to me. So I really think that a lot of this is fun and games for them, that they just really enjoy messing with us and getting a rise out of us. But they've never really, since after the gifting site started, they have never done anything to scare me. They've not thrown anything at me or anything like that, or because at one point in time at the very beginning, we had an entire tree branch thrown at us, And at one point in time, they had us flanked as we were going down a path, and they were on one side and the other side of us, and one was in front and one was in back. And they were knocking, and that one would knock and the other would knock, and we'd stop, and everything would get quiet. And my husband would say, knock. So I would knock on the tree, nothing. The second we started walking, boom, knock, knock, one in front of us, one behind us. And that's scary. But now that I've gotten this far with them, and after hearing the speech recording that we got, it completely changed my attitude toward them from fear to, wow, they seem like they have feelings and everything. So that's when things really turned around for me, when I started realizing that I feel like they're emotional creatures. They're a lot like us.
2 weeks ago tonight, in my yard, I had the sounds of aliens clicking their vocal cords in my yard. One was up my driveway, one was in my backyard, and I'm standing in the middle on my patio.
That's pretty tripped out.
Yeah, so I know what it's like to feel flanked very recently.
It's intimidating, especially when you're talking about, creatures in excess of 7-8 feet tall, weighing 600, 700 pounds, big creatures that are flesh and blood, and right there, and you can tell they're just steps away from you because the knocking is just so close. And it was pretty terrifying. But again, like I said, they've not done anything like that in a long time. I mean, they've startled us, but we've never had them throw anything or let us know you're not welcome here or anything like that. But of course, we try not to infringe on them like a lot of researchers do.
See, my problem with setting up a gifting site here is having to deal with the grizzly bears and the black bears.
Mm-hmm.
When you set up yours, did you know that was already a Sasquatch hotspot, or did you just place it out there and see what happens?
No, I definitely looked for a place where I knew there was activity, where there were tree breaks and tree structures and things like that. And I started, noticing that game trails were pretty close to the areas where they had built things. So that's where I kind of gauged where I was going to put the gifts to start out with, because I knew that they obviously had been there. They'd been through there because we would see new tree breaks on a regular basis. So that's where I set up. And the second one, when I moved from the first one was closer to the trail, and they wanted me to go deeper into the forest, apparently, because, like I said, they were leaving a trail for me to follow, and they had left things that I hadn't seen in a year. And I was finding these things, and it took me further and further into the thicket. And so I was like, they must want me to move. And I moved it, and since then everything's been fine.
So it was almost like they told you where to place it.
Yes, the second time they did. I guess they may have been uncomfortable with it being where it was. I have no idea, but they were blocking the area off. They were doing all kinds of weird things that they hadn't done before. So I just kind of followed the trail and said, okay, if you guys want me to move this, you're going to have to let me know. And I said, you've got 3 containers here. Take one of them and move it out of the gifting site. And that's how you will let me know that you do want me to move it. And of course, the following weekend, I went back, and one of the totes had been moved about 20 feet outside the gifting site and was underneath the tree.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm still worried about the bears. Like, I would love to set one up, but I know the bears around here would get into it, not a problem.
Yes, yeah.
With everything. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, for me to leave food here, there is no possible way between the grizzlies, the black bears, the cougars, the even the badgers that are around here. There's no way possible that I could leave food out there, because I could never prove, without seeing it with my own eyes, that it was actually a Sasquatch that was opening up the Tupperware container.
Yeah, and that's the advantage I have here, because we don't have large animals like that. With the exception of the white-tailed deer, those are the biggest animals that we have out here.
Yes, you're lucky. You're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the one thing that I can say is the one area where I want to go investigate, where First Nations people have pushed me into that area, well, apparently it's an old rundown mine that's been shut down for a few decades, and apparently that area is just filled with grizzlies and very, very big, like we're talking 300-400 pound mountain lions. And old Davy doesn't have a hunting license. Yes. So, therefore, he does not have a firearm, and so there are certain areas, like I'm not a big believer in bringing a weapon into the forest where Sasquatch is, but there comes a point where you do have to be smart about it. Yeah. So,
if I were in that scenario, and we had to worry about large predators like that, I probably would carry a firearm. But I would make sure that they knew that I was doing it for my protection and it wasn't against them.
Absolutely. And that I would agree with you. A couple questions coming from our chat room right now. Watchdog is asking, Edie, do you believe portals are used by Sasquatch?
Now, I've heard a lot of people say this, and I've never seen any evidence to support that. But like I said, I always keep an open mind, because we've had to have some extremely odd things happen. A couple of times in the middle of the forest, we've had this bright white light just boom, just burst in front of our faces, and we're in the middle of the forest. There's no electrical lines, there's no nothing. And that's happened to us twice. And it's something we can't explain. And I don't have anything to lead me to believe that that's happened. I've heard people say it, but until I see it with my own eyes, it's just kind of open for discussion. That's all.
Let's get to Roger's question. He is saying, do you believe Sasquatch would deter any bear? Now, from what I hear in this area, Roger, the answer is no. They are sharing territory. However, I mean, you got to realize the grizzly bears around here are well over 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. They're almost as big as polar bears around here. And so you have to be very, very careful. And, even 1,000, 2,000 pound bear, I think that would intimidate a Sasquatch, considering if a Sasquatch is standing at 8 feet high and a grizzly bear is standing at 10 to 12 feet high, I'm not sure the Sasquatch is ready for that fight. Edie, what do you think?
I just think that, I don't know. I think it's kind of a mutual sharing, like you said, of territory. And I think they kind of, aren't against one another, but they're not like hanging out together. I think they just kind of coexist and try not to step on each other's toes. That's just what my opinion would be. But then again, I'm here in Indiana, and I haven't had a lot of experiences with, any large animals. It's just basically here you've got the Sasquatch, and then everything else is their prey.
Yes, up here it's a feeding frenzy, especially with the forest fires now crowding the other areas.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to look right now, to be honest. I really don't know where to look.
Yeah, I I wouldn't know what to tell you. Like I said, forest fires isn't something that, you see regularly here in the Midwest. So, I would have no idea.
I have learned so much about forest fires over the last 2 months here, or a month and a half here, that I am sick of it. I am really sick of forest fires. At least I'm not smelling campfire smoke anymore. It seems to be dying down. I've had 2 days now in a row where I've actually seen blue sky. Haven't seen the sun, but I've seen blue sky. Mm-hmm. And that feels pretty darn good. Let me tell you that. We've got about 15 minutes left with you. And I know you wanted to spend some time on talking about the UFO sighting you had recently.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, it takes me back to, when people ask questions about portals and things like that. And a lot of people have, said that they've seen lights in the sky or UFOs around the same time that they've had a Bigfoot sighting. And this is something I've always told everybody, never happened to us, never seen anything like it. I never, put the two and two together. I think they're earthly beings. I just think they're flesh and blood beings like us. But my husband and I were out in the forest. It was about 3 weeks ago, and we were just sitting at the campsite. It was a Sunday night. Nobody was out, and didn't have a campfire going because it was pretty warm. So it was pitch black, and just sitting listening. Everything. It was pretty quiet. We didn't really hear any howls or any activity per se. And all of a sudden, my husband's staring. He goes, "Do you see that over there?" He goes, "Is that an airplane? What am I looking at?" And I'm like, "What?" He goes, "That big ball of light." And I looked over, and he was right. And it was a sphere. It was round. And it was a big light, but it wasn't moving like an airplane. It wasn't moving like, I thought maybe it was one of those lanterns that people send up in the air. And I thought, well, it is moving in an upward direction. Well, nope. Then it started like swerving, like it was going like a car driving around curves. It started moving in that direction. And then it kind of darted to the right side behind the tree, and we sat for a minute. It kind of darted back, and then we went up further behind the trees, and then it just disappeared. And we were both sitting there going, okay. It was too big to be a helicopter, too big to have been an airplane. It was completely silent, and it didn't move like anything I'd ever seen move in the sky before. And the wind wasn't blowing, so it couldn't have been a lantern being blown around because the night was just dead still. It was just one of those hot, sticky, warm, still summer nights. So yeah, seeing a lot of people said they've seen the lights in the Bigfoot areas. This is the first time we've actually seen lights over the forest, or a light over the forest that we couldn't explain.
Aliens. That's all it comes down to is aliens.
Yeah.
Yes. Off-worlders, extraterrestrials, other dimensional beings, whatever they want to be called. That's what it is.
Because it was just moving too oddly and we sit in the woods a lot. We see planes fly over and helicopters fly over and things like that. You get to know what those look like. This did not look like anything we had ever seen. And I told him, I said, "You think we just saw a UFO?" He goes, "I think we did."
Excellent. It was, when you have that experience with the UFO, I mean, after you've had the Sasquatch sightings, it's a little easier to take, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, much easier. I mean, you would think that it would be the opposite, but, I mean, once you think, this legendary creature that, some people believe in and even more people don't, but yet there's thousands of sightings all the time, and it's not one mass hallucination. I'm promising you that. But you see one of these creatures and everything, and it's like, wow, So it just doesn't make it that far-fetched that there are aliens and, spaceships and things like that. Once you've seen and experienced something that's supposedly not there.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you in regards to that. And, one of the things that I am looking at when it comes to ETs and ufology is if there is some sort of connection between Sasquatch and these UFOs that are patrolling over the forest, because there are a lot of people who've had ET contact or abduction who said they've been on ships where they've seen Sasquatch on there and they've never believed in Sasquatch before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just makes me wonder if there is something more to that. What do you think?
I don't know. Like I said, I am one of the people that I'll listen to stories. I'm not going to call anybody a liar or anything. That's their experiences. And until I have that experience and I'm able to put two and two together, then, I'm kind of a let me see for myself kind of person.
So, is that your first UFO sighting?
I saw one when I was a kid, when I was a teenager. It was actually Halloween night of all nights. I was probably maybe 12, 13. And we were all out trick-or-treating, and this one wasn't a sphere, though. This was like the cigar shape, like
Yes.
a disc type. And it had lights around it. And it really kind of moved oddly. That's the one thing that I remember from then and this one now is the way it moved. It moved different than anything I'd ever seen move in the sky before. But yeah, I was just a kid then. It was like, did I really see what I just saw? But yeah, I mean, I do believe that it was a UFO.
I have seen the cigar shapes, and they are very intriguing because when you first see them, I don't know if yours was like that, but the one I saw, it moved so fast, and thankfully 3 of us saw it at the same time, where we were easily able to determine that it wasn't a meteor or anything like that, or a shooting star, what people would call, because there was no trail on it. There was no sparking at the end of it, and this thing just absolutely ripped across the sky. And it was about 20 minutes after that same colored orb or rod was underneath, connected to a black triangle that was seen hovering over my house 20 minutes later.
Cool.
Yeah, it was intense.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely it was. Absolutely. So it's very, very intriguing in regards to what we see on a nightly basis, because there are a lot of people having those types of situations. But do you think that now that you've had that experience in the forest with the UFO, are you planning, or do you expect more of that to happen?
I don't know. Since it was the first time that we've ever seen anything, I can't say. I don't know if it'll happen again. But I'm sure we'll be paying more attention to the skies from now on, because that was just a really bizarre thing. And it's funny because we saw this a few weeks ago. The week prior to this, we were having activity. We were getting howls. We were getting knocks. We had the little one drop out of the tree and run. And the week that we saw the lights, we had no activity whatsoever, and the past 3 weeks since, we've had no activity, and nothing has been taken from the gifting site.
What do you think causes those pauses? Do you think it's food migration? Do you think it's something else?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I know right now in Indiana, food is plentiful. The orchards are full, that the corn is full, the deer are out. They've got all their babies out, so they're out and about more. So the food is plentiful. So to me, that's why they're not taking from me. They've always been that way. They always tend to take more from me in the spring in the late fall and in the winter. In the summertime, when everything is plentiful, they don't take near as much from me, if they take anything at all. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a migration kind of thing, but these quiet periods, maybe they're just, I don't know, just maybe moving, because we have a lot of state forests that kind of connect to one another. So maybe they're just moving from one area to another. I wouldn't call it migrating. I would say just kind of maybe visiting or going to a different area to hunt. I don't know. Again, like I said, more questions than answers.
And that's in the end what we're all worried about, is the questions and the answers that kind of go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
that's what makes it so interesting, though.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you feel you are closer or any closer than we were even a couple of years ago in trying to find the answers to what Sasquatch really is?
I do, simply because, I've had interaction with them, even though, it may be delayed or, like if I let them know I'm there, we're going to go hang out here, drop by, they'll come by, they'll tree knock or something like that. I definitely feel like I know more about them, because when I started this out, they were just creatures to me, and they've just become more and more human and more unique to me. And yeah, I do feel like I'm closer to realizing what exactly it is they are. And I still believe that they are very closely related to us, and in their intelligence and just the way they act and the way they like to play jokes on people and things like that. I'm completely changed from day one, big monster running in front of the car, and now when I'll sit in the forest and talk to them or bargain with them and say, hey, you haven't been here in a while and you're worrying me, you've got to let me know you're all right. So yeah, I've leaps and bounds from day one till now.
Excellent. And where do you plan on going with this research? What do you want to do with all of your evidence?
I don't know if I've ever really planned to do anything with it, to be honest. I collect it. I've got it here. I've got, stuff displayed and things like that. And I love getting together with the IBRO group. They're a great bunch of people, and we like sharing these things and telling the stories. And it's almost like a club. Some people like to go play bingo or, like to go play softball. Our little group likes to, go out and research independently and together and in groups, and then come together a few times a year and talk about it. So, yeah, I can't really say where I'm going with this. It's just kind of like my own private little ride, and occasionally somebody like you will say, hey, you want to share your stories? And I'm like, sure.
Absolutely. So, we'll take Edie Caito stories anytime around here.
Yeah, because I call myself a researcher. I don't have a scientific degree or anything like that. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma, or should I say I'm a meemaw. And I'm just a regular person. I love to write, and that's something I've always wanted to do. And this has kind of enabled me to get that started by telling people stories. And everybody's told me I've always been a storyteller, so I guess this kind of research is just right up my alley.
Let's get to a quick question here from Michael in the SOR Space Travelers Club. He is asking, Edie, have you ever gotten a good look at any of their faces? And if so, could you describe it?
Not close up, no. I think the best would be the female that we saw. She had, it wasn't like an ape-like face. She didn't have the heavier brow like you typically see the pictures that people depict of the males. But but she definitely did have the human-like experience, expression, the features like the eyes, but the wider jaw and the bigger forehead, but not as pronounced as like a male's. But you could definitely see the human aspect, but you could definitely see almost like an ape-like kind of feature. But again, we were quite a ways away, and I haven't had the pleasure of getting really, really, really close to one, be able to see the facial features. My daughter did. And she just explained it as it just looked like a hairy human with, stronger like caveman features is the way she described it. And this was the elder that she saw, which was like a cross between a silver and a white, like the aging color of hair. And he stood and turned his head and just stared her dead in her eyes and let her stare at him for probably what felt like forever to her before he turned and ran down the hill.
You know what? When I had my second look, or my first look at the second one that I saw, I never got the facial view. I got a right profile, a little bit of the face, but not so much that I could make out even a cheekbone. It was so fast. But the one thing that amazed me about it, and I could still see it in my face, in my mind right now, was seeing how the shoulders connected to the head, and there really was no neck. It was just like, like when you see these, steroided up bodybuilders that have no neck, and it just goes from shoulders to the head, and that's what it looked like. But the one thing that I did notice about that was the pointy head, because it seemed to have like a flat point on top. Did you notice that as well?
Yeah, it did. The head was definitely more angular shaped with a taller top, especially the female. The male head, the one that I saw, at least the shadow of it was more scrunched up, I guess. But hers was like taller. She had longer features. I know, it's just really weird because it's just so hard to describe, but a lot of them have different facial features.
Yeah, it is strange how they seem to, well, I mean, every human looks different, so maybe we shouldn't be that surprised.
Yeah, that is true.
Maybe it's us who are looking at them strange as they are with us, as they throw rocks at us.
It's all fun and games until somebody starts throwing rocks.
Absolutely. A friend of mine here recently had his window shattered.
Yeah, they will do that.
Yeah.
We have the ones up at Yellowwood have done it because we have one of the members of our group that likes to play the sound of a bunny rabbit in distress. They don't like that, and they will throw rocks whenever that is played. And I don't like to be around it when they do it because I don't want them pissed at me. I'm the nice one. I bring you pie. Don't throw rocks at me.
We only got about 30 seconds left with you tonight, my dear. Is there a place where people can hear your audio clips?
I have them on our paranormal page, but you probably have to scroll down a little bit to find them. And that's Helping Hand Paranormal Investigations, and you can find that on Facebook. Also, my personal page, I noticed a few people have added me as we were talking. Scroll down, you can find some of my recordings from back in May. And those are usually the best places where you can hear them is the HHPI page and then my personal page.
Awesome. And your books. Let people know where they can find your books.
My books are on Amazon. You can get them on for any e-reader, or you can get them in hard copy on Amazon. The first one is Indiana Bigfoot, The Beautiful Mind, and the second one is Indiana Bigfoot, The Cave and Beyond.
Edie Caito, thank you for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. You hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, our official guitar god around these parts, rocking us out from tonight's show with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of SOR. Tomorrow night on the show, Dr. Frederick Woodard is going to join us. We're talking paranormal. We're talking hypnotherapy and how the two tie together. We get things going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time. We want to say thank you to absolutely everyone who helps put this show together. From the Encounter Online, Eric Markham and Everett Thiemer, Jolene Lammers on web design, along with Tim Doyle, who's also part of UFO Seekers, Catherine James on social media, Bob Davis, our great announcer, Kim Gandy, our director of business development, and Leslie Mitchell-Clark, who takes care of us with LMC Media. We absolutely appreciate all of their help in helping us grow, but we also thank all of you, my friends, because without you in the chat rooms, listening at home, in your car, on your computer, wherever you may be, on Twitter, sharing us, telling people about us, we wouldn't be growing the way we are. So I thank you, most of all, for helping us grow together, because together, my friends, we own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, do us a favor. Take us home. Good night.